One thing that I've been wondering about being here on the farm and using tank water is just the quality of the tank water itself. I know that it's pure. It comes off the roof and into the tanks. It goes into a cistern tank first. All of the solids settle out of it, and then that cistern tank overflows into the tank that we draw water from. And while the house supply is filtered, and I've been using that, the total dissolved solids in there are 31 parts per million. And the other week, in order to save on the house supply, because we're in the middle of a drought at the moment, I went and bought myself this caravan filter. And you just stick this in line with your hose and it filters out most of the solids in the water. I did a total dissolved solids on this and it came out 51 parts per million. Not too bad, especially when you compare it to town water supplies that can be in the hundreds of parts per million. I mean, they add things like fluoride and chlorine and other things that are health benefits to the larger population, but which we obviously don't get here being on tank water. What you do get though is obviously birds shitting on the roof and snakes shedding their skins and stuff like that, and that ends up in the tanks, or can end up in the tank. There are mesh filters to get all the bigger solids out before they end up in the tank, but some of it obviously ends up there and breaks down over time and ends up in the water. The other thing that I don't have is a water quality analysis on this. So you can download your water quality analysis from your local water provider. In Brisbane, it's SEQ Water. They'll tell you the Brisbane water supply. I think now they even break it down by area, so certain areas will have different dissolved solids in them based on the age of the infrastructure. So you end up with some of those materials dissolving into the water as well. But I don't know exactly out of those 51 parts per million, even though it's a lower total dissolved solids than the Brisbane water supply, I don't know what that's made up of. There could be iron in there if there's iron reinforcing in the tanks. Any sort of dissolved solids, and I don't know. And especially for recipes that call for 0 parts per million of, say, bicarbonate, because they want a really soft water. I just don't have the figures to say that of those 51 parts per million, 16 of them aren't bicarbonate already. So what have I done? Well, this was a great investment and this will stay, but I've also gone and bought myself a reverse osmosis system. Now, my concern with reverse osmosis is there's obviously a lot of wastewater. For every litre of water that you produce, you can produce up to 3 or 4 litres of wastewater. And that was a concern to me until I figured it out that I can just run the wastewater back into over here. I think it's just out of frame. Is a gutter that drains into the tanks. I'll just run the wastewater straight back into the tanks. Problem solved. They say that this system can get down to 1 part per million of total dissolved solids. We'll check that after it's been run in for a while. So I'm just going to install this and run it through its paces, follow the instructions on setting it up and running it in. You always have to run some water through these systems to get them charged. Why did I get it? So the 2 reasons, obviously, I want pure, clean water that I can then build the water profile up to the desired levels for the beer that I'm making. But the other thing is that it was on sale. Black Friday sales down at the local homebrew store. Hoppy Days Brewing Supplies, shout out to the boys down there. So I thought, yeah, why not? I've been looking at it for a little while. Like, there's been a couple of brews that have come through not quite the way that I wanted them to. Like a lager that wasn't quite as crisp as I wanted it, or I'm starting to get really fussy now with my beers, whereas 12 or 24 months ago, I'd have produced a lager and said, yeah, that's the duck's nuts. Now I'm starting to pick faults in it. I'm starting to say, well, yeah, there's a little too much bitterness here, or it's a little too dry. And some of that can come down to your water. So, yeah, we've got the reverse osmosis system. You might have noticed that there's a new addition here. I've got this piece of plywood up behind the thing here just to hang a few things off. I'm just going to put a couple of screws in here and hang the osmosis, reverse osmosis system from that. We've got a lager going, a Mexican lager. It's a pity I didn't get this a couple of days ago, and I could have used it on the lager for the first time and just see what the difference is. But the first couple of brews we're going to put through here are going to be ales, because I need to get something in the kegs fairly quickly. We've only got 2 taps running at the moment, and one of them's a hazy at 6.8% that really knocks your socks off if you drink too many of them. The other's a Christmas stout that isn't quite ready yet. The system seems to come with everything that you need. I might need to grab, oh no, I should have a fitting that'll fit onto there. I might need to go into town and grab a couple of hose clamps just to get things going. First things first though, I have to fit the membrane. So on this system, I don't know if other RO systems are any different. White is your feed-in water, yellow is your RO water, and orange is your drain water. So drain for me is going to go up and over and down into there. Shouldn't have any issues with that. So I am going to cut the white. I don't want it being too long. I don't know whether to feed it down and around the back here or not. That might neaten it up a little bit. And just cut it a little bit long, and I can always shorten it later. And this is just a little cutter from Kegland for cutting their EVA barrier. I imagine that'll work on this. Beautiful. Gives it nice straight edges. A lot better than trying to use a Stanley knife or a set of side cutters. I may need to get some longer tubing for this, so that I can run it up and along the roof and then down. That way it's not likely to come out. I mean, this at the moment, the way it sits is likely to pull out and then just spill water everywhere, which I don't want, given we're in drought at the moment. But for the time being, it can just sit up here too. This will go into my drawers over here. It's the filter tool for when you need to replace the filters. That's all there is to installing a reverse osmosis system. Obviously, as I said, I need to go and get some adapters for this so that I can connect it up properly. All there is to setting it up, putting two screws in to hang it from. These fittings here are basically the same as duotites, so they're very easy to get the little bit of hose out that they put in there to show you where to plug each colour in. White I've cut short just because it's going to sit in there, and I don't want sort of miles and miles of white hose everywhere. I have kept the excess, and I'll be putting that away in case I need to redo it, rejig this anyway. I do need to go to Bunnings to get an adapter that goes from that to that. If I can do that, then I'll be very happy if I can find one of them. Otherwise I'm going to have to hunt around to find some sort of solution that takes that as an adapter. Not the end of the world, but it just means I can't run the system in. So as you can see, the yellow hose I haven't cut, mostly because I don't know how I'm going to use it exactly yet. I may want to have, you know, sort of a pot sitting out here with the outlet water feeding into that, so that I can take that inside and do some stovetop brewing. The orange hose, I want to run up and along the roof and then down into the drain, and then that'll feed back into the tank, so the wastewater isn't going to waste. It's going back into the tank, because for every litre of water that you produce, you get about 4 litres of wastewater. And I don't want for a, you know, if I'm using 80 litres of water, I don't want to throw 320 litres out. But that water is quite a precious resource to us at the moment. The other thing is, so I'll need to look for some additional hose. I'll take this with me to Bunnings, see if they've got any in their water. They've got a whole aisle for reverse osmosis and filters and stuff like that. See if they've got tubing that I can run up and along and back down again. That would be an ideal situation. But apart from that, I've got to run the system for half an hour just to get rid of any solids, get rid of any settle the carbon filters down, get rid of any particulates that might be in there, and just get the system set up ready to go. Once we've done that, we're going to run our first brew, which is going to be a smash beer, and then at some time on the weekend we're going to do a second brew, which will be a porter. So that'll give the RO system a good work through. I'll do a TDS test on it to test and see what, you know, how much total dissolved solids are coming out of the system, and I'll also do that, you know, sort of fairly regularly. The filters on these are supposed to last 12 months. We'll see how we go with brewing regularly, because we are putting a lot of water through there. We'll wait and see how long how long we do get from the system as well. The other thing is that there is a pump you can get to go on here to boost the pressure. Even mains pressure can sometimes be a bit low. I know with the pumps that we've got on the outside here, they are over spec'd, so we do get really good water pressure, so I'm hoping that we don't need to do that. But if we do, it's an option. But yeah, for now we've got the caravan filter filtering out all the big particulates. That should protect these filters a little bit and extend their lifetime. That's $28 down at Bunnings. I'd rather replace that every 6 months than these every 6 months. Apart from that, yeah, we'll just need to set the system up and test it, see how it goes. So I've got a few things to do around the farm before I can go to Bunnings, but once I'm back, we'll get this set up, run it through for the first half hour and see how we go. So I've been to Bunnings and I've got the bits and pieces that I needed. So I've just created a little bit of a standard hose adapter extension there, and then I've got a hose connected there into this connector with the duotite style connector on it, and that goes up into the input on here. Okay. And then I've turned it on for a half hour initial cleaning, or whatever you want to call it, initial run up. I've got the yellow hose coming out here. We don't seem to have anything coming out into the kettle yet. And then our orange hose goes up and over. And I've put an extension on there. I just need to tidy that up a bit. And then that goes down into our drain. Just waiting for first, I was going to call it first drips, distilling term. Just waiting for the first flow to come through here at the moment. So we go. The wastewater is working. Try and get some focus on it. So that's coming through. That's all right. It's obviously just going to take a little while. But there we go. We do have output. So I'll just leave this. I'll set an alarm for half an hour. I'll get on with some other jobs. I don't think we'll be brewing today off this system, just because it'll take a couple of hours to create 40 litres of water. But we'll see what happens. And here we are, the final result. 1 part per million total dissolved solids. So there we are, one of the easiest projects I've ever had to put together. The hardest part was finding the right fittings to go from the caravan filter into the reverse osmosis system. But apart from that, everything just went like clockwork. And here we have it, 1 part per million. I mean, our tank water's pretty damn clean anyway, but at least now I know exactly what's in here. Nothing. Oh, and you can taste the difference too, even with tank water. There's a little bit of minerality in the tank water. Not a hell of a lot, but just enough that might be putting some of the beer styles off, depending on what is in there. But that's perfect, because now I've got the ideal base to build up my water profile from. If I know there's nothing in here, then the only minerals that end up in the water are the ones that I put there. So I'm happy with this. The only thing is it's going to obviously take a couple of hours to get enough water in the system that I can do a batch on the Braziller. So that it'll take about 38 litres to do a full batch between your mash water and your sparge water. So if you're worried about your water profile, I highly recommend getting a reverse osmosis system. Now this system, as I say, was on sale. It was under $200. You can pay up to $600-700 for some systems. I'm not sure the difference between them, but this system's coming out at 1 part per million. I don't need to spend $600-700 on an RO system when I'm getting water quality like this. Yeah, so have a look around. It is a bit of a hassle having to purify your water before you brew with it, but the quality of the beer, I expect it to just step up that next notch. I hope you found this episode interesting. I hope you've got something from it, even if it's just how simple it is to set up a reverse osmosis system. Have a look around. If you've been sitting on the wall about whether or not to get one, jump in. Find one that's in that $200 to $300 range and just go and do it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so you find out when new content's coming out. And give us a like. That lets Google know that the content you've just seen is useful, it's interesting, it's informative, and it gets us out there to more people as well. So, cheers. That really is clean.